Are you ready to save some money? Our viewers sent in tips, everything from how to eat at restaurants less expensively to some DIY car repair ideas and everything in between.
Welcome to our monthly coffee chat where we drink coffee and we chat with our viewers. This month we're featuring some viewer frugality tips.
Now on Coffee Chat every month, we feature really great coffee. Specifically, we like to try to find coffee which has been produced by locally owned companies and they do their own coffee roasting. This month, we are drinking...
The brand is Kicking Horse Coffee, and this comes from Canada. One of our viewers from Canada sent this to us. They also sent a couple of more samples, so we'll be trying a couple more as well. But this is a very good blend of coffee. I call it KA coffee.
Hey, Canadian viewers, we love you. And Jennifer, thank you so much for your gracious gift and kind gift of sending us not only this bag, but 2 other bags of Kicking Horse Coffee.
Good stuff.
We'll make sure, guys, that there's a link to Kicking Horse Coffee. It'll be in the description of the video, and they are happy to send you coffee as long as you live in the U.S. or in Canada.
Well, let's take our first tip. This comes from Christine, and Christine writes, "My husband just loves going to the movies. I just can't spend $50 for 2 tickets and maybe popcorn to share. So when a movie comes out that he wants to see, we will go before noon on Saturday or Sunday morning. Tickets for the first run movies are $5, and the best part is there's no crowds. And my husband gets to see it on the big screen."
Christine, it is not just you. All of our sons do exactly the same thing because they hate paying full price for anything. Another tip that they would give you is to go online. Sometimes if you go online and buy your tickets in advance, there are little coupons on there and you can get an additional discount on top of the price of the ticket. Homestead Nana says, "When my kids were little, I would double or triple cook what we needed for a single meal and then freeze the leftovers in meal-sized portions. This made us less likely to order out on busy nights." So important. "If I was sick and couldn't cook, then there was food in the freezer." Then she had another great idea. She thought, here I am, I'm cooking these, double or triple portions, I'm freezing them. What if my friends did exactly the same thing and we swapped meals? So that's what she does now. And then they wind up with a lot more variety in their freeze. Now, as long as you have friends who have the same basic dietary guidelines that you do, and you're going to exchange equal portions for equal portions, I think it's a great idea. You know how your friends cook. You're over there all the time. You know you are.
H. Han writes, "If you go to a restaurant, which is pretty few of us, we only go with promotions. For instance, get restaurant gift cards, which are marked down, 20% bonus bucks, or BOGO, BOGO, which is buy one, get one free. This happens a lot during the end of the year near the holidays."
Now, make sure you keep listening because when we get done reading her suggestion, we're going to tell you a real life example of how we use this exact strategy.
"Then only use the gift card when there's a promotion on food, such as BOGO meal throughout the year. You literally pay a fraction of the price. The downside is to wait to go until there's a promo and the upfront cost. But if you have the patience, it's so worth it. The hubs and I, with the kiddo, use it as a quarterly treat. And bonus that it gives you a hard stop because you use the amount on the gift card and you don't go over on your luxury restaurant budget."
All right, so did you get that? She's taking her whole yearly restaurant budget. She's waiting until those gift cards are available at a discounted price. Then she's buying all of the gift cards for the entire year for restaurant money, and they make sure they don't go over that. A couple of caveats before I share with you how we use this sort of strategy for eating out at a restaurant. We would suggest you make sure that you figure into the cost of your restaurant meal leaving a generous tip for your wait staff. We don't go out to eat very often, but when we do, our wait staff is super happy to wait on us because we leave a very, very generous tip. So make sure that you figure that into the cost of your restaurant meal. The other thing that I would say would be that you want to make sure that you are using those restaurant bucks on, I would say, guaranteed good meals. Get them for restaurants you've been to before. The worst thing in the world would be to spend like a big chunk of your yearly restaurant money on a new restaurant thinking you're going to love it, and then you really don't. And then you got these gift cards and you're figuring out what to do with them. We used this strategy when we took all of our kids out and their significant others for our 30th anniversary. A few weeks before that, we were at the restaurant. It was for Father's Day. And they had a promotion where if you bought a $50 gift card, you would get an additional $20 bonus gift card on top of that $50. Now, the caveat with the smaller $20 gift card was that there was an expiration date on it that came out like in 30 days. Well, we knew that was okay because we knew our anniversary was less than a month away from Father's Day. So we loaded up. We figured out exactly how much money we thought it would take us to take all the kids and their significant others out for dinner. We bought that amount of gift cards. We had the bonus $20 gift cards for every $50 that we spent. We set those aside. Then we waited until there was a special offer. And I think our younger kids, yes, on our 30th anniversary, we still had kids under the age of 12. Yes, we did. And those kids ate for like, I don't know, it was like $8 or something. It was one of those build-a-bowl places. So it was a little bit pricey. And then Larry had also asked, and if you were involved in law enforcement, you got an additional 20% discount. And because he worked for the police department, they gave us a 20% discount on top of all the offers that we took advantage of. And so we really
that was amazing.
Rolled those gift cards into paying. And as I recall, I think we had money left over. Larry and I think maybe went out, just the two of us, at a later date and used up the rest of the gift card. So we'd actually overestimated what we needed. But that's an example of how you stack those discounts on top of each other.
It's amazing how when you combine so many offers, you can save a boatload of money. It's amazing to me that the restaurant even stays in business after they put out that much food at that low of a price.
Well, I can say that I don't think most people use the kind of strategy that we do when they're eating out.
Probably not.
Okay, a viewer left this comment. It's an obvious one, but walk or take public transportation when possible. Last November, my husband and I spent a lot of money on petrol. So she was from overseas, more than 100 euros. So we made a pact. We would only use the car when strictly necessary. The last 3 months, it's been much better, spending around 30 euros each month. Now, get that a second. They were spending 100 euros a month. They said, no driving unless necessary. 30 euros a month. That's a 66% less that they were spending after they just simply said, we're not going to use the car unless we absolutely need to use the car. Also, I'd like to thank you. I've learned about the emergency fund in your channel. You're very welcome. And it's been a lifesaver. We had unexpected medical expenses and we were able to pay fully without stressing about where the money was going to come from. Well, you are very welcome. And I would say that if you are a relatively new viewer, or if you're a viewer who has not yet gotten my free ebook, then listen up, because we have a free ebook available that walks you through all of the steps that we took when we were saving for great big goals, all of the areas of our budget that we were able to cut back. And I'm going to make sure that there is a link to request that free ebook. It will be in the description of this video, and the ebook is called 10 Ways to Radically Reduce Your Expenses.
Sheila says, I've been making my own seasoning mixes instead of buying the already made ones. I also do that with some of my flavored coffee and tea. Saves money as I'm not going to many coffee shops in town. That's a great tip. Making your own instead of buying pre-made things saves you a lot of money.
I have a lot of herbs that I have dehydrated and set aside, and they make wonderful teas. Very, very inexpensive herbs, guys. You know, if you've watched for any length of time, I don't do well with gardening. Herbs are the one thing that I seem to be able to grow without killing them. And herbs are so easy to grow, and they're easy to just pick off the stem, wash them, and dehydrate them for later use.
Charlotte says, I live in Texas, where in the summer it's way too hot to exercise outside after 8 a.m. So my frugal tip is to see if your city has a recreational center. Ours has a gym and pools year-round with discounted rates for city residents. Great way to get exercise and save money. Plus, there's no subscription to remember to cancel.
Yeah, so it's like a pay-as-you-go thing.
Yeah.
I would say, Charlotte, we are right there with you. So in Illinois, usually we're like 10:30, 11 o'clock in the middle of summer. You're pretty much done being outside. Here's what I would add to Charlotte's tip, just to give you some more ideas. Never join something like a health club, particularly if it's a locally owned health club, without asking if there is a discount available because you live in the city limits, or if there's a discount available because you work for specific organizations in the city. In our city, it's the hospitals and the actual city itself that are primary employers in this area. So if you work for one of those, sometimes you can check with HR and they'll say, oh yeah, we get a discount all the time at such and such health center, and make sure that you ask for that discount when you go. Also, if you're a member of like different organizations, then you can also sometimes get a discount. And of course, if you're over the age of 55, don't forget to ask about those senior citizen discounts.
And the only thing that I would add to that is if you do have a subscription to one of these services, make sure that you're using it regularly to get the good out of it.
Absolutely. And make sure that you put the renewal date of that subscription, because so many of them renew automatically.
Yeah.
Put it on your calendar at least 2 weeks, maybe even 30 days before the renewal date. Put an alarm on your phone. If you put it in there, it'll say ding, it'll pop up and say, oh, remember, in 30 days you have to renew the subscription. That's a great time. It gives you plenty of time to evaluate. Have you used it in the past, 6 months or a year? And how much have you used it? Do you really want to renew that or not?
Yeah.
Allison says, never turn down hand-me-downs. You betcha, Allison. If I don't like something, if it won't fit my children, I will pass it along.
Yeah.
If it does get overwhelming, yes, I understand, when I get a couple of bags at a time, but I'll sort through and store and donate ASAP. We did exactly the same thing when the 4 boys were growing up. We had Rubbermaid bins that like lined the wall of our basement. And each bin was for a specific size. And we had a big typed sign that we had on the outside of each bin that said,
so they knew what was in it.
Right, what size it was. And we stored the shoes separately because like when you're storing, you can fold things nice and neat in a bin that are clothing items, but the shoes would like make it so you couldn't get the lid on. And so we just finally did a separate bin for shoes. Are you hand-me-down family? Let us know in the comment section, because we sure are.
And I use this general rule for anything that anybody might offer to give us. My thing is, don't turn it down. Take a look at it. Take it home, and when you can have some time with it, you can decide whether you want to use it or send it on to somebody else.
I will say the only rule we have is that if you give it to us, you gave it to us.
Yes.
And that means that if it won't fit our kids, we can give it away. We can do whatever we want to after.
Right.
And we're like this with our own kids.
Yeah.
We're often like, hey, kids, we don't want this anymore. Do you want it? And our kids know that if we give it to them, I don't care if they sell it on eBay. They can do whatever they want to with it because I'm giving it to them because I don't want it anymore. But we never did that weird. You can borrow this until your child grows out of it. Because my kids would get something spilled on it. I would never get that stain out. I would be paranoid, or they would rip a hole in the knee. No, do not take it if they are offering to let you borrow.
I was going to say, we will not take merchandise or things from other people if they want it back. We're like, no, if you want it back, just keep it, because if something happens to it, then we feel responsible. And all the time that we have it, like she mentioned, you're paranoid that something's going to happen to it. So no, that's no good. If they want to relinquish ownership of it, that's fine.
Beth reminds us, private colleges offer different financial aid packages pertaining to GPA. You can have them compete against one another for your child. We are right there, literally right now. Our son Daniel is in his 2nd year of college. He's looking at colleges to transfer to. And we already know that one of the colleges he has narrowed his field of vision down to is going to offer him immediately, as long as he keeps his GPA up, between a 3.9 and a 4.0. Right now it's a 4.0. as long as he keeps it within that range, they're going to take $10,000 immediately off the cost of that college. The other thing that you want to bear in mind is that private colleges, our oldest son went through school on a full tuition scholarship at a private four-year university. Often private colleges are pretty well endowed, or they will offer 1 or 2 or 4 really high value scholarships in order to get students to at least apply to that college and go and take a look at it. And so he was very, very fortunate to get that scholarship. I guess our point is, don't cross private universities off of your list thinking, oh, they're going to be too expensive. I would always go. And our mantra, do the math. Because that's one of the things Dan is looking at. The university he's looking at is 30 minutes from our home. So he's thinking he's going to save a lot of money by living here and commuting and taking his lunch every day, because he never buys lunch at the college he's at now, because he's like, no, that's going to cost me money. He's very specific about his pennies and where he spends them.
He's very frugal. He is very frugal.
Just consider that, guys.
Yeah. Lucy has a tip that we've mentioned a little bit on a previous video that we do this. With our kids, we try to avoid individual servings. And she's talking about small chip packets, crackers and cheese, individually packed things. We buy large packets and divide them into smaller servings. And that's what we did to save me from going to the vending machines and buying a bunch of candy bars. You buy a big package of chips and you divide those up with Ziploc bags over the week or maybe a couple of weeks, and then you have something every day to eat, and you're not spending as much money as you would have from the vending machines.
We call it the vending machine without the quarters.
And
I was going to say, that's just not for children. That's for big-sized people who tend to go to the vending machine at work.
Yeah.
I love this one. Diane. First of all, we want to get to know Diane and her husband, because her husband does most of their car and home repairs and all of our remodeling projects himself.
That's great.
Can you come visit? Does he hire himself out? I cook from scratch, preserve food from our gardens, and buy foods in bulk. They got it going on, guys. I'm telling you. This DIY, real homesteading kind of thing. And that is a little bit where it's at. And I think that it's figuring out a combination of either the skills that you already have or the skills you're willing to learn. It's always good to keep a list handy of what I want to know and what do I need to learn to get from where I'm at to where I am at least proficient at that skill that I want to attain.
Kathy says, cook when the hydro, that means the water, is at its lowest rate if you can. Get rid of your dryer and use the clotheslines or drying rack in the house. Make sure you tell your family not to expect laundry back the same day. Conserve energy where you can. It will make a difference on the monthly bill. As I've heard said, challenge yourself. Now, I don't know that I could be brave enough to get rid of our dryer, because when it comes to really bad weather, especially real cold winter weather, I don't want to be hanging laundry out on our lines. We do have some really nice lines, and we use them during good weather.
Absolutely.
But I'm glad that they can think about maybe getting rid of their dryer. That's really bold, and that does save a lot of money.
I tell you when Larry did use the dryer, and that's when I broke my arm, because I was laid up for 5 weeks and couldn't do anything, and he was trying to take care of me, take care of the house, get Phil back and forth to work, do all the stuff.
Yeah.
Back to saving money on your utility bills. We have given a lot of tips on this channel. Guys, I'm going to make sure I'll find one of our best tip videos on how to lower your electric bill. I'll put that video up above right there. I'll also put it in the description of this video. We have heard from countless viewers who have said by following the tips that we give, they have lowered their utility bills by 30 to 60, some even 65%. A lot of people said they lowered it in 40% in 1 month. So make sure that you're paying attention to those tips that were given.
If you like what you've been seeing in this video, make sure you hit the like button.
Kathy ended her thought with, as I've heard it said, challenge yourself. Challenge yourself is something that we call putting the fun in frugal.
Yeah.
We really think that the more that you are aware of all of the statistics of what you're spending and go, I wonder if we could lower that. I wonder if we could do better next month. I'll bet you in 3 months we could lower it by 20%. That whole thought process is involved in putting the fun in frugal. And we're going to be tackling that topic in an upcoming video. So be watching for it, which leads me to say, if you are not subscribed to Under the Median, make sure you're subscribed and you hit that bell notification button, because that's going to let YouTube know that you want to be notified when we drop our next video.
The nice thing about challenging yourself, as Hope was mentioning, is it turns frugality into kind of a contest. You try to get the highest score. The highest score would be the most amount of money you can save in a particular area. And I always loved going for a higher score than I previously got. So you can make a game of it and a contest of it to make it more interesting.
Sandra, who is one of our viewers from Canada. Woo, shout out to the Canadians in the audience.
I know they have good coffee.
I know, y'all. Wait. Good Canadian coffee.
Yes.
Here we go. Best Canadian coffee. Once again, Kicking Horse Coffee, guys, in case you missed it at the front of the video. She said, we just saved $1,000, which is $738 US, by ordering a brake kit, replacing the rotors, pads, and caliper ourselves. 5 hours of work. But listen to this. The DIY cost to them was 400 Canadian dollars as opposed to 1,000 Canadian dollars.
That's
she saved 1,000. So that would be 1,400 Canadian dollars if they had not done it themselves.
Yeah.
And that's 295 US dollars.
Right.
We also change our own tires seasonally, but had to wait because the weather called for a rare snowfall. Yeah, it's weird like that here too. I'm telling you, 70 degrees one day and the next day it's like 35. I'm like, what happened?
Yeah.
All right. A neighbor offered to lend them tools. And that's the other thing I was going to bring up is her comment about the neighbor lending them tools. It's always good to make friends with your neighbors, isn't it? And it's good to know who around you has something that you could maybe say, can I borrow that?
And maybe you have something that they can borrow so you can go both directions with it. Sink into stillness. You've got to have the why. The goal, intention, or reasons need to be strong. Else efforts, motivation, and good intentions tend to get lost otherwise. Also, this will maybe sound counterintuitive to frugality, but allow yourself small concessions to the frugality. Denying yourself any treats may make you feel resentment unless you have an iron will. I so agree with that statement, because I think we need to have some fun along with the frugality, and we don't want to put ourselves into a straitjacket as such, where we can only do a certain thing all the time. That just wouldn't be any fun if all we did was save money. So it's good to use some of your resources to have some recreation and some enjoyment out of what you're doing.
Charlene gives a great idea. Develop a sense of abundance with a gratitude journal. One of the things that happens is when things start to go haywire. Frugality is not a straight line. I wish I could tell you it was. Oh, you set a goal and you just go straight for it. A lot of times life happens and there are little detours that certainly none of us were expecting, like breaking your arm, guys. And when those detours happen, it is human nature to start hyper-focusing on the things that are going wrong.
Yes, it's easy to do that.
But this is a great reminder from Charlene to say, you know what? Focus more on what's going right, and what is going wrong won't seem nearly as important, because you'll remember you are blessed in certain areas, and it kind of allows you to have that mindset reset that you really need.
Elizabeth says, I'm also saving by shoveling my own snow instead of paying someone to do it. So far, it's good, and it snowed 5 inches last night. Anything you can do for yourself saves a lot of money. I do my own snow removal. I have help from my kids and from Hope when she's able. And I also do my own car washing on the driveway. That saves going to the car washing place and spending extra money on that all the time. There's always a lot of little things that you can do to take up the slack for things that other people would charge you to do.
We came home a couple of nights ago. This was when it was 70 degrees here. And we saw there was water on the pavement on the driveway.
Yeah.
And Daniel had come home from class and
He
had
washed
washed
his
his car.
Yeah.
And I looked at Larry and said, I love having frugal kids.
Amy says, I saved by using rechargeable AA and AAA batteries. My 9-year-old has a few toys that require batteries. Since the switch, they have lasted a couple of years with a proper charging routine. Now, our favorite rechargeable batteries are Anyloop batteries, and you can find those on Amazon. Anyloops are now made by Panasonic. They used to be made by another company, but those are very long-lasting batteries, and they last for maybe 5 or 6 years. And I keep those in my flashlights and anything that I need for quick recharging. They are excellent.
Guys, you want to look at Anyloops, we'll make sure we leave an Amazon affiliate link in the description of the video so you can find them real easy. Elizabeth Grace says, I'm saving and gathering money for a vacation, yay, by selling some things from my home that I no longer want or need. I'm also tucking away $5 a week out of my bills or change to beef up my vacation account. Well, here's why I liked this tip. She's thinking way ahead.
Yes.
This is part of the problem that people decide, like on a Monday, in 2 weeks, I feel like I deserve a vacation. And you wind up putting that vacation on the charge card because you haven't thought far enough ahead. Yeah. She's figuring out now in February where she's going in, say, July. And she is making sure that she is making financial provision for that.
Excellent.
Whenever you plan a trip, make sure you know exactly how much you feel like it's going to cost you, and then break that down. This is what lodging is going to cost us. This is what eating out is going to cost us. This is what, taking food with us. We love Airbnbs. It's kind of our new thing, Airbnbs, because it always has a kitchen and we can take all of our food with us. Yes. And that saves us from a lot of eating out expenses. Now, always plan 1 or 2 times, guys, on your vacation that you're going to deliberately eat out. But when you take food with you, it does really cut down on the expense of that vacation. The other thing that she's doing is selling things she don't want in her house anyway. And she's using that to fund something she really does want, which is a vacation. And that, my friends, is the definition of frugality.
Melinda says, I love a nice fancy coffee. So I make them at home every time I want one. It costs me about $1.82 per fancy grand size at home versus $7 out. That is a lot of savings. And yes, I would say we drink most of our coffee at home. We just make it at home and we love it that way. It's so much cheaper. And frankly, it goes a lot further too.
Melinda advises eat less meat, do a meatless Monday even, go vegetarian, try some vegan dishes. It does save money on groceries. This is the number one thing we hear. Now, y'all know that we are plant-based, so we're not buying meat anyway.
Right.
But from our viewers who do eat meat, that is the number one thing we hear from them that does help them to lower their overall grocery bills, and that is just eating less meat.
Yeah.
Eating meat in the minor key.
Yeah.
We just successfully in 2023 fed our family on $200 an average per month. Yeah. We did a whole video on it. We gave you the top 10 ways that we used in order to drop our grocery budget and make sure that we were able to feed our family on just $200 a month. That video, guys, it's right over